Today's video is going to be on a bunch of random stuff. So this will be my first episode, I guess you could say, of like random tech thoughts. Maybe like a weekly thing, I don't know. Because sometimes I want to make videos on like this stuff, but it's almost like it's way too it's just way too random or way too like condensed or brief, my thoughts, and it's something that you can't really just, talk for like an hour on, or like, it'd be awkward if I went and like played Forza or played like Need for Speed or FIFA or something. I thought about doing that, but I was like, the gameplay's gonna make you kind of distract you. It's gonna be like kind of, so that's the intro. Anyway, so topics today are gonna be one boring topic on DRAM timings, because I like RAM. I don't know why I like DRAM. A more interesting topic on AMD's new cards, and then also another topic is ASUS and their current state, in my opinion. And I might do a fourth one. I'll decide like if it gets too long or whatever. But okay, so the first topic, I'll just get to the meat and potatoes. So AMD's response. Now, I made a video about, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, about the new cards coming out, and I take back nothing. I take back absolutely nothing. What I said was on the money. Okay, so my buddy Morgan, they commented in the comments as well, the guy that owns the card and everything. He's been running the card fine with 0% power limit. He can't add 15%. Now, some of you might be like, oh, it's overclocking. No, dude, it's not normal that when the card is at 0% power limit, the card's got absolutely no problem running very, very normal workable hotspot temps. The moment you crank the power limit to plus 15, it thermal runaways, because apparently on Reddit they've been finding that the issue might actually be the cold plate itself. So if you guys recall, the Corsair 8500, so back in like 2020, I think it was, like before lockdown, like, there was maybe the Deep Cool Assassin 3, there was like the NHD 15, but there weren't many like very good air coolers. Like now there's like the AK620 and stuff, but back then there weren't actually many options that were like aesthetic and good. And Corsair were like, yo, we're gonna make an air cooler, and everyone was like, whoa, this thing looks insane, and it did. The A500 was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, one of the best looking coolers I've ever seen in my entire life. Now the problem is, it sucked. It was horrible. Now I don't think the QC was even like that bad in terms of variance. If you bought one, you pretty much had the same issues as everyone else. You had to grind down the cold plate if you want to have like proper mounting pressure and like proper contact stuff, like, but without grinding it down and flattening it yourself, like that cold plate was way too uneven. So the thermal contact was just wonky as hell, and that seems to be what's going on with a lot of samples with AMD. Now, obviously, this is all hearsay and I guess you could say anecdotal evidence or whatever, but like, I think it's probably what happened. Now, my friend, like I said, he can't increase power limit. Another guy on Twitter, same thing. He has the same issue where he'll hit like 110C hotspot and then he'll crash after, I think he's half an hour. Bunch of people online saying their cards are crashing because of the temperature, and that's just like TJ Maxx thermal runaway. The card protecting itself. Now, someone said something dumb about like, oh, it's gonna throttle. Dude, I've had a Ryzen chip that one day I had a dead AIO. So the one day I did AIO, I boot my computer up, it starts throttling, so it's running really slow. And I'm like, why is the computer so slow? I completely black screen. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, that was weird. Boot up again, same deal. I get the hardware info though. It manages to load it. And I'm like, what the hell? My CPU is like 98C at like 500 megahertz. Thermal throttling didn't do shit, buddy. So, yeah, like, thermal throttling didn't help. That shit crashed quickly. So 100C TJ Maxx on AMD. If you hit 100C on your Ryzen chip, it crashes immediately. So yeah, hit 100C because my AIO was dead. I realized, I was like, wait, this thing must be dead. And it was. AIO was dead. Sad times. It is what it is. It happens. But anyway, so it doesn't save you. If your card's thermal hitting a thermal runaway scenario, good luck. Like, there's no way. You have to like somehow cool it down by dropping your power limit. Something has to happen, and it might come back down. Yo, the card sucks, dude. The drivers have been like meh. I don't know. My friend says he has like variance between boots and performance on card, which is very strange. Honestly, I feel like a dick for recommending him to buy the card. I literally had one job alone, and that was, I could have said buy a 4080, or on the day the card came out, I said perhaps consider buying an AIB model, because I remember the reference card itself wasn't terrible, but it was pretty bad. Like, it wasn't great. Like, you know, G6 temps were like in the 80s, and then like, you know, the core temps were like very meh, like 75 hotspot. This was like the 900XT, by the way. This is like the old one, the 600XT, the one from last gen, like the silver one that I had. And I'm like, listen to my friend. I'm like, listen, dude. The hotspot temps and like the VRAM temps on the XFX are way better. You might want to buy it. And he's like, dude, it's 2K more. I'm like, 2K. I'm like, you know what? Buy the reference card. I'm like, just do it. Buy the reference card. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. He said. Like, I feel like an asshole. Now, my friend doesn't blame me. He doesn't blame me at all because he's just pissed at AMD, which he should be. He deserves to be pissed at AMD. As does everyone else. This launch was an absolute disaster. Like, what the hell, AMD? Like, how did you manage to allow this to happen, dude? Like, frame chases was actually completely correct, dude. And the funny part is, you understand that he completely bullshits. Like, none of what he says is, like, you know, I mean, it kind of, like, you know, he does kind of draw from, like, past circumstances and events. But let's be completely honest, like, when he was predicting this card would suck, like, there's absolutely no way he had any way of knowing. Like, there's no basis for that, like, opinion. But he ended up being completely correct. And the cards are terrible. And you shouldn't buy them. And that's insane. That, like, he was completely right. Honestly, I don't even fucking know. But, like, whatever. Like, yeah, those cards are dumpster fire. If you have one, and your sample is good, and you comment in the comments, you're like, the card runs fine. I understand. Okay? You are like the person who bought the Apex with DDR5 in the beginning of Alder Lake and was like, oh, I'm running games completely fine. My CPU overclocks to like 5.3 gigahertz. And okay, the reason I'm making a funny voice is because you have to understand that you sound dumb. Like, you do sound dumb. I do too sometimes, and I sound dumb as well sometimes. You don't even realize you're doing it. Like, honestly, if you're really happy with the product, like, okay, you spend a bunch of your money on something, you're really happy with it, and you're proud of your purchase, and you're like, oh, this thing runs completely fine. What do they mean it's broken? Okay. You're biased because your experience is, like, really, really good, and everyone else is, like, suffering. You can't, you know, just rock up there like, oh, I'm not having any issues, bro. This is completely, like, false, bro. No, that's a terrible mentality to have. That's a horrible mentality to have. That's, like, very, 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 like, what's the word? Like, I don't know, probably oblivious. Like, yeah, you're pretty much oblivious. Like, naive, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, like, no, this is dumpster fire, bro. Like, there are way too many accounts online. Anyone who says that AMD says its 110C is completely fine, it's not dangerous, crashes won't happen, nothing will happen, blah, 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 blah. They denied some guy's RMA. He had a mad angry post about it. My friend linked me another post on AMD subreddit where someone was saying something about the hotspot temps. That shit got deleted, bro. Like, bro, AMD, like, they're wiling. Like, okay, all my opinion, no defamation. I'm just saying what they're doing. Now, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say defamation stuff like, oh, your card's going to degrade. I don't know if it will. I don't know. Okay, I don't know if your card's degrading. I don't know if 110 hotspot's safe. I don't know what exactly the issue is. I can't be sure what they did. All I can say is there are graphs online from some very reputable tech sources. So I don't know exactly what the name is again. It's someone you know. It's someone you've seen tweets from before. It's someone who makes videos. Like, it might be CapFrameX. I think it could be him. Dirk Bauer's name was mentioned as well in the article. There's an article online. Google it. You'll see they have like a whole graph with like a bunch of models tested. Now, the funny thing you'll see is a lot of the AIB cards are good. Some of the reference cards are good. And then some of the reference cards are absolutely dog water. Like, and that's how you know something's wrong. Because why the hell are some reference cards dog water, and then some of them are like better than AIBs? What the hell? Like, how does that work? Like, yeah, like, I'm confident something went on there. I'm not saying exactly what happened, and I don't know if your cards are going to degrade to 110C. I'm going to say this, though. Hypothetically speaking, if all the AIB cards are spec to run at those hotspot temps, in terms of, like, they're all, like, in the 80s, and they're all, like, running quite cold, and their coolers were designed to handle that kind of temperature and keep them at that kind of temperature, and some reference models are at like 90C hotspot as well. Maybe 80C in some cases. You have to ask yourself, if some reference cards are 80C and some are 110C, when AMD says it's perfectly normal to run 110C hotspot, hypothetically speaking, like, does that actually make sense? Because if it isn't like, if a lot of cards are, like, engineered to run, not at 110C. Like, it seems like 80 to 90 is more like the temperature. And you're at 110, I think you're not really in the, like, in the proper zone, Like, I'm just saying, it's a bit weird. It's a bit strange, isn't it? Like, and keep this in mind. The hotspot central die temp, that's TJ, that's in the middle. That's also where the triplets converge, right? So if there was a problem with the cold plate mounting pressure, or like the evenness, and let's say it was kind of like bowed in the center, like it wasn't completely, like it wasn't even, where would you see the runaway? You would see the runaway on the spots of the die where the contact is bad. So why is the edge temp good and hotspot's 110? Think about this. Why is your edge temp 65 but your hotspot's 110? I'm just saying, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a genius, I'm just Dane/Effect from the forums, but I mean, like, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like, it kind of adds up. Oh, by the way, the fact they put thermal putty on your guy's VRAM is actually troll. Like, that's actually a troll, and I love it. Like, AMD trolled you guys, and I love it, dude. It's hella funny. But anyway, like, dude, you'll be lifting up their coolers, bro, and there's, like, thermal putty on the VRAM, bro. Like, what? That shit is funny, bro. That is so funny. Anyway, that's a mega troll, bro. $4,000 card, bro. They put the, I mean, it might be good though. It might be good though. It might be like pretty. I mean, nah, it's not good, bro. The temps are terrible. Like, come on, don't play with me, bro. Like, those VRAM temps on those cards are egregious, my boy. Like, what, dude? Nah. Anyway, so let me stop. Let me just I'm getting a bit too wild. Like, I'm getting a bit too wild now. Okay. Next topic. So we're at like 12:15. So I'm gonna make a timestamp. So next topic would be the next most like relevant, interesting one, and that's ASUS. The state of ASUS products in 2022, late in the year. Okay, so their Z790 boards are actually extremely good. Like, believe it or not, the Z790 Hero is actually really good. The Z790 Extreme is actually also really good, and the Apex is like, it's like voodoo. The Apex is like apps, like it's sorcery. Like, the Apex is what the Dark was. In fact, the Apex is something else. The Apex is confusingly good. I don't understand the Apex, dude. The Apex is like, take any IMC and any A die and you're guaranteed 8,000. I have no idea how they manage that, but the Apex is something else. It's from a different dimension. I don't know what the hell that thing is, or how it works, why it works the way it does, but it's insane. Now, is it always insane? No. Just like I mentioned before about the whole, Apex early 2020 or early late 2021 model Apex meme from like Alder Lake and stuff, the Z690, the saddest launch of all time. That board, okay, look, the QC on that board is more like the OCing potential. The QC on the Z790 Apex is looking more like you might end up with a dead motherboard on arrival, and your PCB will have a bend in it of varying severity. So, like, I mean, pretty much every single Apex thus far, from, like, every tech tuber outlet, Twitter person, YouTuber I've seen that owns one, mentions a bend in the PCB. It depends on the sample. Some are worse than others. Does this bend kill motherboards? I don't know. Some of those boards did end up DOA. So, someone mentioned on Twitter that, of the 11 individuals they know of, owners of Apexes, 3 of them have been dead on arrival. Or no, 2 are dead on arrival, and like another died after like a week of use. So yeah, like, I mean, it's a great motherboard, but yo, I mean, if it dies, RMA, dude, RMA, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. Okay, state of ASUS motherboards. They're sick. Honestly, they're amazing. Like, ASUS knocked Z790 out of the park, and their Z690 BIOS updates for ADI by Shimino are insane. Shimino is an insanely good coder for ADI optimizations in BIOS. He's been putting in a clinic. Like, what he's been doing with ADI on Z690 is something that I can't even understand. It's ridiculous how much he's extracted out of the older boards on 690 with 8. I don't know how he does it, but whatever. And the 790 boards, the Hero, the Extreme, the Apex, they're all insane. They're all ridiculous. They're actually crazy motherboards. If you can buy an Apex, you can find one. You can afford one. You want to have, top clocks. That's the one to buy. It's the best board. The Z790 dock might compete, but the Apex right now is looking like something else. So ASUS, as of right now, is pretty much a W. However, I will say, it seems like the Arctic compatibility has gotten worse. I don't know how, but somehow, I think it's actually harder to mount the Arctic to the 790 boards now. Somehow it's gotten worse, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it was pretty hard to mount properly on ASUS before, on 690. But on 790, it's like, buy a different cooler, bro. Like, good luck. I mean, that's how it is right now. Honestly, like, I mean, if you want to mount a 420 AIO, your Arctic 420 to the Apex or whatever, don't bother. I don't know what to tell you. Like, don't bother. It's probably not going to fit. Or the Hero, it probably won't fit, but like, maybe will. Could try. But from what I saw, someone else tried to fit the Hero, and the Hero just wouldn't have it. The Apex might be different. It might be different spacing and stuff, so maybe it will fit, but I don't know. I mean, your money, but it seems like compatibility is worse now, so that's a factor for Arctic owners. Hooray. Last topic was the RAM thing. Oh yeah. Okay, so at 1635. Okay, so this is something I've always always. What am I saying always? As if I've been tuning RAM for like 20 years. No, it's something I've been like curious about like last few months. It's something that I just don't really understand. Is a lot of these. No, that's rude. Sorry. A few of the other RAM enthusiasts I've met online seem to have this kind of like thing where they prefer to refer to tertiary timing and are like, yo, but the secondary is not in the register, so it doesn't exist. Okay, I have issue with that because the tertiaries themselves do matter because obviously the register is for them, right? The register for the tertiary. So for WRDs and for like TWR pre and TRD pre and stuff, the registers are for those and not for like TRTP, TWR, and like TWTRL, TWTRS. So TWTRL and S and TRTP and even TRC have no actual IMC registers on Intel. True, very true. So you would be like, oh, well then, TRC doesn't matter because there's no register, and TWTRL and S, it's the tertiaries matter and whatever. No, actually, like, no. Yes, the register timing doesn't matter, but what the theoretical timing would have been does matter. So, in the case of like TRTP, TRD pre is sets exactly the same as TRP, so it actually doesn't matter. That one we can scrap. Forget about that one. That's whatever. TWR pre. Okay, TWR pre. That resultant TWR value is dependent on your TCWL. Meaning, if TCWL, hypothetically speaking, was like 10, which it can be, some Hynix run 10. So, if you could set TCWL like 10, for example, for instance, right? You're telling me the tertiary is what matters. If you set 10 TCWL, and you set like, I don't know, man, like 45 TWR pre, dude, your TWR value would be in the sky. Like, in the sky, dude. So you'd have to floor that shit to like 30 or 25. And then you're like, oh, it works. Oh my god, dude, what? Bro, I have like 25 TWR pre, but my kit's insane, dude. Like, no. You have 10 like, no, if your TCWL is on the floor, then it artificially reduces your tertiary requirement because the resultant TWR is still in line. That means that the tertiary has no relevance because it's in context of the TWL value. So basically, the secondary is what matters. It is what matters. And on some motherboards, if you set the secondary, it sets fine. Now, not all. Some motherboards require you to actually go and set TWR pre. And PD in if you don't have the power setting turned off. But actually, like, the real factor is the resultant value. Because if your kit's stable at like 6 TWR, however you get there, doesn't matter. Like, if TCWL is in the floor, then TWR pre and PDN have to be lower. Okay? So move on, another example. TRC. Now, TRC is TRCD plus TRAS. Dumb. TRP plus TRAS. Sorry. So, TRP plus TRAS is TRC. Now, on Hynix, it seems not to matter that much, but it does matter in some cases. On Samsung, it matters a lot, and on Micron too. So, and even if you go back to like D4, where you have to, have reasonable TRAS values, right? Your TRC resultant value does end up affecting stability. So not everyone can run like TRAS 28, because if TRAS is 28 or like 26 and TRP is like, okay, let's say you're a B die, so let's say 13. So 13 TRP plus 28 TRAS is what? 41 TRC? 41 TRC is going to cause a lot of problems for some people. Like, that's going to cause, well, that theoretical timing is going to be a very unstable situation for a lot of IMCs. Same with Samsung B die on D5, like I had. How did I get my 6400, 36, stable on my Strix board back early this year? How did I do it? I adjusted my TRAS value. When I raised TRAS all the way to 84, 84 plus 36 is 120. 120 theoretical TRC was actually what allowed my IMC to relax and run the config reboot stable. That's what it was. That was what it required. So, yeah, like, the resultant value, although it doesn't exist, the theoretical value does matter. Same thing with TWTRL is. Again, hark back to my old example. TCWL. Okay. Let's say TCWL is 24. Okay, 24. So, the WRD minus TCWL minus 6 is your TWTR value. So, if your WRD, same group, so long, is like, give it 60. 60 is a fairly normal value. 60, okay. 60 minus 6 is 54. And then let's say you want to get to like 24, which is reasonable. That's a reasonably low TWTRL value. You need to have 30 TCWL. So 30 TCWL is like quite normal, especially if your TCAS is like 32. Let's say you at TCWL 24. Okay, 24 is 6 lower. If you had TCWL 24, so if you subtract 24 and 6 from 60, that's 24 plus 6, 30. 60 minus 30 is 30. So now you'd be at 30 TWTRL. Now that's quite high. That's quite a crappy value. That's quite loose. It's quite loose timing. It's shift for performance, right? So if your TWL is low, quite low, you'd have to compensate by making your TWRD same group much lower, like 54, which is very low. Like, that's quite low. I mean, okay, let's say let's go a bit crazy. Okay, let's say you could get your TWL all the way down to, let's say, like 20 for argument's sake, right? And you, again, like, let's say your kit's stable at like TWTRL 24. So now you need 24 plus 20 plus 6, that's 50. 50 WRRD is extremely low for same group. Like the big one, not the smaller one, the bigger one. 50, that's extremely freaking low, bro. That's ridiculously low. But it worked. Why? Because TWTRL is then 24 still. And that's all because 50 minus 20 TWL minus 6 is 24. And that's still stable. Now, if you had a much more reasonable TCWL, right? Like, let's say 30, that's 10 extra. So 10 extra to reduce from the WRD. So, or subtract from WRD. So it's going to be like 50 minus 6 is 44 minus 30. Bro, what's 44 minus 30? That's 14. 14. dude, TWTRL14 would crash immediately, but that shit wouldn't train. But it wouldn't even train. Like, so in what world does the tertiary matter? Like, it matters, but not really. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, your TCWL matters, right? That's very important because whatever that is gonna determine what the subtraction differential is, like what the degree of reduction is from the WRD or whatever other tertiary, whatever, like, you know, TWRP and stuff. So TCWL is very important, right? That random number that, well, I don't, it's not random, but like that number that's a constant. So like for the RD calculation, it's 6, and then for the TWRP one, I don't know. I think it's 4, maybe 7. I don't know. It's something like that. Whatever. That constant. So it's the tertiary minus the constant minus write latency, cache write latency, and the cache write latency is the biggest factor. Whatever that is determines how high or low your tertiary sits, and the resultant secondary, whether it be TWR or TWTR, L or S, or and again, even with the example before of TRP and TRAS, where TRC's resultant value matters on some ICs, those values will all be important if your IMC will train on. Your IMC will not train a resultant theoretical secondary if it's too low. So it doesn't matter how reasonable your tertiary is. If your cache write latency has set a condition where now your secondary, so let's say your TWTRL or whatever, is like 14 because your cache write latency is too high and your tertiary is too low and whatever, like, that's not going to train. So in my opinion, the tertiary does matter, but not really. Like, what matters is what your IMC ends up seeing as the resultant theoretical, you know, value, especially because those timings, like TWTRL, S, TWR, and even TRC, when those are wonky, you have a lot of IMC stress and a lot of problems running IMC stress tests and stuff like that. They're very important values for just raw IMC stability. So yeah, and that's this video pretty much. Pretty much everything I want to say. I think that's gonna be it. Yeah. So till next time, guys. Hope you enjoy this one, and I'll see you.